Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good day everyone, my name is Sunairan. So in this good opportunity, I would like to make a video presentation as my assignment for my academic speaking lesson to our mentor Sir Muhammad Chandra, SPD MD. About the topic of my presentation, I'm going to explain about evolution of L2 motivation in higher education that I gathered this from EFL Journal as my resource and references. So the purpose of my presentation is to investigating how L2 motivations evolve over the time in higher educations. But first, I will start to explain about the introduction of theoretical frameworks and motivation in higher educations. Next, I will explain about motivation of intensity. Then we'll move to the material and methods, and then we end it with discussion of result. Introductions. Motivation is a subject of interdisciplinary interest cutting through the such diverse field of knowledge as education, psychology, sociology, economic, and the political science. Gardner, 1985, to extend to which the individual works or strives to learn the language because of a desire to do so and the satisfaction experience of this activity. Theoretical framework. The approach adopted here to examine L2 motivation focus in its evolution or how it changes over the time. This is because high motivation may look like a stable attribute of one learner, but the low or lack motivation might be appear in characteristic for another. So this is often implied in the motivational literature when certain tools, one-time questionnaires are used. The importance of macrotemporal study motivation is the answer lies in the commonly observed problem in the classroom where teachers tend to blame their students for lacking motivation, while some students lay to blame the teachers. Chambers, 1993. Motivation in higher education. Part of the temporal dimension in how motivation evolved over the years in higher education, one might be tempted to believe that the higher education students is naturally more motivated than a school child, based on the assumption of the adult learners are different and consequently require different treatment too. Knowles, 1968, introduced the term of androgyny as opposed to the pedagogy to refer to this distinction. So in this view, adults are assumed to be more independent, more experienced, more interest in knowledge, in applications, in their real life, and they tend to be more intrinsically motivated than the school children. Motivational intensity. According to Gardner's 1985 interrogative motive, L2 motivation encompasses three components. First one is motivation intensity, or we call it efforts. Second, desire to learn the language, or we call it cognition. And the last one is attitudes toward the language learning, affect. Gardner also operationalized his theory into an extensively tested and highly reliable self-support instrument to measure of motivation, and call it the Attitude Motivation Test Battery, or we call it AMTB. So despite the reliability of AMTB, Dornier, 1994 and 2005 raised two validity issues. First, the three components of motivations, which I explained it just now on the above, effort, cognition, and affect, have rather overlapping items to the extent that it might be quite tricky to resemble them if they were pulled together. So this can be also be an explanation as to why these three scales intercorrelate highly. Second, the MMTB, in addition to accessing the underlying unobservably mental aspects of motivation, motivation, also measures the actual behavior outcomes through the effort scales. So this might quite play of key role to increasing the predictive validity of the instrument. But in reality, two of the above motivate components, which is cognition and affect, may be prerequisites for the third. The words is quite hard to pronounce, sorry. The third effort, which result in final products of a continuum with autonomy at the one of procrastination at the other. Materials and the method. This is quite a challenging to explain, but I explain it how. The participants is with some 145 were male freshman students of an elementary of pre-intermediate level of proficiency with an age range about 18 until 20. They were studying in Dubai Industrial College, or we call it GIC. Saudi Arabia, GIC is an all-male English medium college where the students is primarily study English and mathematics. And then to the foundation year of preparation. After successful completion of the first year, the quality of proceed to their technical or business majors. The first group of the participant, the first group is 86 with the sum, where in their first semester, and the second is 59 in their second semester. So all of the participants were in their first semester studying either English alone or both English and mathematics. The instrument. In order to measure the exam's procrastination, first research questions, the instruments include items about the participants' first start preparing for their tests in the semester of the study. The participants were asked 3 questions about concerning the weekly Wednesday quiz and the 2 major exams that they had before of completing the questionnaires. The result is quite challenging to explain, and I think you guys can see the PDF for your own. So I will skip it, and next we will explain about discussion. The camera is okay. The result of this study seems to lend some support to the other studies with review above the pain and gloomy pictures, where there's a pattern of motivation decline over the time. In the present study, this pattern was revealed especially in exam procrastination and daily studying, but not in the other areas as discussed above. There are 3 possible explanations in the literature of the observed declining pattern. The first one is related to the distinction between attitudes and motivation. Second is deterioration of self-efficiency, and the third is formulation of more realistic goals. So this explanation will be discussed in relation to the finding of the study. Conclusion. In conclusion, now that we know that motivation in school, students are poor and miserable, and many different factors such as the teachers, the environment, and the quality of the students itself. Based on the finding in this presentation, I would like to have a suggestion of a students who are still learning. We know that the change is a must to do in the teaching method, and there are more students who lack of motivation and they're blamed to the teacher, which is the opposite. Teachers blame their students. So we must help them and find the other meaning of this motivation, evolving into a new, better individuals. So that's all about my suggestion, and it seems like this is the end of my presentation, guys. Thank you for you guys' attention. Have a nice day, and assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, guys.